Most people walk around believing life insurance is just another bill. Another monthly expense. Something extra. Something they will get to later. But here is the uncomfortable truth we need to start with. Dying without coverage is far more expensive than paying for it ever will be. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about the kind of cost that shows up as stress, chaos, confusion, and sometimes fractures inside a family that never fully heal. This is not a conversation about policies or paperwork. This is about what actually happens when someone is gone and there is nothing in place to protect the people they leave behind. Welcome back to Wise Side Life and Legacy. I'm Nakel Nakima, and today we're having one of the most important conversations in this entire series. Because this topic sits at the intersection of love, responsibility, and reality. Let's start with what hits first. The immediate financial shock. When someone passes away, the bills don't wait. Grief doesn't pause the system. In fact, everything seems to move faster. Decisions have to be made quickly, often within days. Funeral arrangements. Burial or cremation. Transportation. Services. Paperwork. Time off work. Coordination with family members. And then comes the price tag. Depending on where you live and what kind of service you choose, funerals today can cost anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. Sometimes more. And most families are not sitting on that kind of cash, ready to go. So what do people do? They reach for credit cards. They start online fundraisers. They borrow from relatives. They delay the service. They cut corners in ways they never imagined they would have to during such an emotional time. And just like that, grief turns into financial pressure. Loss turns into debt. And what should have been a moment of honoring someone's life becomes a scramble to figure out how to pay for their passing. That is the first wave. And it hits instantly. But the second wave is where things really begin to change. Because when a provider passes away, the income stops immediately. Completely. There is no transition period. No gradual slowdown. One day it is there, the next day it is gone. But everything else? That stays exactly the same. The mortgage is still due. The car payments are still due. Utility bills continue to arrive. Groceries still need to be bought. Children still need clothes, school supplies, and stability. So families go from a sense of normalcy to survival mode almost overnight. And this is where the real gap shows up. Not in the funeral. But in the months and years that follow. Because without income replacement, families are forced to make hard decisions quickly. Decisions that reshape their entire lifestyle. Do we sell the car? Do we pull the kids out of certain activities? Do we move to a smaller place? Do we go back to work sooner than we are emotionally ready for? Life insurance, when it is in place, is not just about covering immediate expenses. It is about buying time. It is about giving a family breathing room. It creates a buffer between tragedy and financial collapse. Now let's talk about something that carries even deeper emotional weight. The home. For most families, the home is the center of everything. It is where memories live. It is where routines are built. It is where children feel secure. But without coverage, that home can quickly become the biggest vulnerability. Missed mortgage payments start to stack up. Savings get drained. Options start to shrink. And then conversations begin that no one wants to have. About selling. About downsizing. About moving. Not because the family wants to, but because they have to. Imagine going through grief and, at the same time, packing up a home filled with memories. Imagine explaining to your children why they have to leave the place where they feel safe. A house is a structure. But a home is something much deeper. Losing it during a time of loss compounds the pain in a way that is hard to fully describe. Now here is where we shift from financial to emotional cost. Because money problems are rarely just about money. When there is no plan in place, families experience stress at a level they were never prepared for. There is confusion about what to do next. Guilt from not being able to provide what feels right. Conflict between family members over decisions, responsibilities, and limited resources. And all of this unfolds while people are grieving. Instead of being able to slow down, reflect, and heal, they are forced to speed up and figure things out. Who is handling the bills? Who is coordinating arrangements? How are we going to manage next month? Grief becomes mixed with urgency. Sadness becomes mixed with pressure. Life insurance does not take away the pain of losing someone. Nothing can do that. But what it can do is remove the chaos that surrounds that moment. It allows families to grieve without the added weight of immediate financial survival. And then there is the long-term impact. The generational effect. When there is no coverage, the consequences do not stop after the funeral or even after the first year. They ripple forward. Children grow up in households that are now under financial strain. Opportunities may be limited. Plans may be postponed or completely changed. Spouses may inherit not just the emotional burden, but also the financial one. Debt. Reduced income. Increased responsibility. Over time, that instability can shape the trajectory of an entire family. But when coverage is in place, the story looks very different. Children are given continuity. Stability. The ability to pursue opportunities without being held back by immediate financial hardship. Spouses are given space. Time to process. Time to make thoughtful decisions rather than rushed ones. Families are given dignity. The ability to handle loss without feeling like everything is falling apart at the same time. That is the difference between leaving behind a burden and leaving behind protection. And this brings us to a perspective that is often misunderstood. Life insurance is not for the person who dies. It is for the people who stay. It is not a luxury item. It is not something reserved for later in life. It is not a box to check when everything else is perfect. It is a foundational part of a responsible financial plan. Because the truth is simple. The cost of not having coverage will almost always be higher than the cost of putting it in place. So here is a question I want you to really sit with. If you did not wake up tomorrow, what would your family face financially? Not the ideal version. Not the hopeful version. The real version. Would there be enough to cover immediate expenses? Enough to replace your income for a period of time? Enough to keep your home? Enough to maintain some sense of normal life? If thinking about that question makes you uncomfortable, that feeling is worth paying attention to. Because it is pointing to something that needs to be addressed. Protection is not about fear. It is about preparation. It is about making a decision today that removes uncertainty for the people you care about most. And the good news is, coverage does not have to be complicated or out of reach. There are options that fit different budgets, different stages of life, and different needs. What matters most is that something is in place. If you have been putting this off, consider this your reminder. Not out of pressure, but out of clarity. The longer you wait, the longer your family remains exposed to risks that are completely preventable. And if you are ready to take that step, to explore what protection looks like for your situation, there are resources available to guide you through that process in a clear and manageable way. At the end of the day, this is about more than finances. It is about responsibility. It is about care. It is about the kind of legacy you leave behind. Because a legacy is not just what you build during your lifetime. It is what continues for your family after you are gone. Thank you for spending this time with me on Wise Side Life and Legacy. Remember this. The cost of protection is small compared to the cost of going without it. Stay wise. Stay covered. And stay committed to the legacy you are building every single day.